The way we look, the way the world sees us, can affect our whole lives. And if something is not quite right, you can feel like a freak. For some blokes, it's their weight. For others, it's their pecs. Or even the size of their manhood. But for me, it's my hair.
It's Ginger.
My name is Dan Wright. I'm 26 and I'm a comedian. I've always stuck out, had the piss taken out of me, and had very little success with women. All because of my hair colour. But now I realise it's not my problem, it's theirs. I just think,
Fuck off, I'm Ginger. Welcome to our cafe.
most
the
kids know
best
me from Big
cafe
Cook,
in
Little
the
Cook on
world.
CBBC. I'm Little Cook, the one that looks like a ginger pirate.
Whoops.
And this is Big Cook, my comedy partner
I think
Steve.
it just is in the big world.
Here
Let me
being ginger
see.
works. But in the real world, being ginger is not so great. Particularly when you're a single guy on the pool. Friday night, and it's free entry for the ladies. Should make the odds in my favour. I got talking to some girls to find out exactly what the deal is with ginger blokes.
When you're on a night out, what sort of guys do you go for? What sort of guys do you fancy?
Dark.
Dark.
Tall.
Right.
Has to be tall.
Yeah,
But
kind of similar. I like dark eyes. Well, actually, I don't mind blue eyes. They've got to be well dressed. They've got to be smart. Kind of ooze a bit of sexiness.
I've noticed you haven't mentioned guys with ginger hair. What do you think of guys with ginger hair?
probably would avoid them, to be honest with you.
What is it about ginger hair that you just don't like, you don't fancy?
The pale skin, the
Really?
light eyes. Yeah.
I mean, there's not anything to do with the fact that the ginger pubes.
That is a turn off. No, that is a turn off.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to
Yeah.
you. You see it and
Yeah.
you think, no, damn it, it would just totally turn me off completely.
For me, it would be the starkness of the white skin. It's really, really pale skin against the brilliant orange staring you in the face.
Yeah, that's it.
I love the fact you call it staring you in the face as if
Yeah.
it's like trying to attack you
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Well, it would be because for a woman, I'm being honest with you, for a woman, you just look there and think, oh my God.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'd need sunglasses probably.
What would you prefer? A ginger guy with a big penis or a blonde or brunette with a small one?
No, you have to be a dark guy with a small one. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
But do you not think that's a little bit ridiculous that that is the case, even though you can't help
But
it?
yeah, but at the end of the day, in your head, you would still be saying, here's Ginger, and if anything goes on, you were going to have ginger kids if you married.
Yeah.
So this is what the information I've been missing, isn't it? The fact that I've been going up to girls, getting on really well with them, and they're like, nah.
With my confidence at rock
Yeah, what would
bottom,
you
I
say?
hit the bar. The night was still young, and there were plenty more fish in the sea. A few drinks later, and I spotted some girls who seemed up for a laugh. One was a redhead, so I joined them and did some serious talking.
And what sort of guy, physically, do you like?
Probably dark or
Right.
blonde
Okay.
or brown.
Yeah.
I generally quite like dark.
Dark.
Not too dark, but more like sandy or brunette.
Right, okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, if the blonde's hot,
Yeah.
it's going to get something.
Basically, it works sort of like if you're a girl and
Yeah.
you've got red hair, then it's kind of like fiery. It's sort of the passionate, you're kind of wild,
Okay. If you're
scary person. If you're a guy, it just somewhat reminds you of, I don't know, wedgies. Person who was just not the coolest person in school.
Really? So if you say ginger guy, you automatically think about pants being pulled up someone's arse. Is that what you think of? Basically, it makes you think of geeks. Is that
Essentially, yes.
Right. Do you worry that because you're ginger, if you went out with a ginger guy, that people would really pick on you? Because you've got kind of the gingers together, they're kind of sticking to their own.
Kind of. I'd laugh at them.
You would laugh at them.
By now I realised that I wasn't going to get lucky. Rather than suffer more insults, I headed home alone again.
To be honest, talking to those girls, I was genuinely shocked at how much they didn't want to go out with ginger guys or be seen with a ginger guy. And as much as it was quite funny and ridiculous, it kind of angered me a little bit. And it made me think, well, what can I do? I mean, I can't really do anything about it. I just feel a little bit helpless, really.
The next morning, ego a little bruised, I decided that booze-fueled club nights are not the only way to meet ladies. There must be plenty of girls out there who don't just care about looks.
Seeks.
I test my theory by placing
attractive.
2 ads in a Lonely Hearts column. One as a
Who's up for
ginger
a laugh?
and one not.
Go on.
First up, the
You know you
non-ginger
want
ad.
to. Well, I've never done this before. I just feel a little bit desperate, so I'm going to try and make the ad just quite confident and quirky. Okay. Off the cuff, intelligent. Sounds so boring. Seeks sounds so bad, doesn't it? At the end of the day, hopefully a few people who are reading these will be quite desperate and will just go for it anyway. Okay, advert 2.
And they were going to have to be
I think I'm
even
just gonna
more
go for
desperate
it.
to go for
Just
the
be-
ginger ad I was about
be
to write.
myself. Great news. I'm back on the shelf. Been on the shelf for quite a long time.
How long?
Well, years, to be honest. Thanks. Great news, I'm back on the shelf. Funny. Ginger. Ah, that'll get him calling. Ginger guy. Funny, up for anything, 6'2", ginger guy seeks confident, down-to-earth girl. How's about it? To be honest, if I went out with a ginger girl, I just think people would look at us as if we were freaks. Really. That's the one problem I would have with probably going out with a ginger girl, is that I think all the time we'd be trying to hide from people. Let's do that again.
I then had to do a telesales routine, selling myself down a phone line.
Hi there, my name's Dan Wright. I'm 6'2". I've got ginger hair, and that's it. I've got ginger hair. I've got quite a slender build, and hi there. I'm an easygoing guy. I like a laugh. I go out a lot with my family and friends. My interests include going to watch the football quite a bit. I won't tell you who I support just yet, just in case you don't like that team. I enjoy Michael Jackson music. I like funky house music. I like bands like... I've done a bungee jump before. Have you done one? If not, it doesn't matter, but give us a bell. It's so difficult, this. Oh, for God's sake. Have you got any hobbies? Have you ever done any...
Or if not, press 2.
A few days later, my ad is in the papers. I was officially looking for love. As I waited for messages, I couldn't get what the girls had said to me at the club out of my mind. I mean, what is it with girls and ginger blokes? What's so bad about being ginger? Leading psychologist Dr. Glenn Wilson specialises in sexual behaviour.
What do you think it is about ginger hair that inspires such a negative reaction?
Well, the simple answer is that it's very uncommon, so it gives people something to pick on. But I think it's more complicated than that. The ginger colour of the hair is signifying very, very pale skin. And more than that, so many genes for that you might have some degree of inbreeding that will weaken health and immunity. That's what they're detecting, I think, at the unconscious level, though they're unlikely to be able to describe it that way.
One of the things I found with women, especially, when I spoke to a few women the other day, was
was that they were so deterred by ginger pubic hair. I mean, what do you think that is about?
By the time you reach the colour of the pubic hair, you're at the point of no return in terms of the dating game. And while some women might accept ginger tops as mates, as platonic friends and so on, they might not want to swap genes with them.
I think there's a genuine difference in image of a ginger guy and a ginger girl. I think ginger guys are seen as odd and different, whilst ginger girls are seen as fiery and with a lot of character.
I think it relates to the fact that men prefer blondes and women prefer dark men. I think women can be sexually attractive even when they are vulnerable, as Marilyn Monroe was, I suppose. And if fair skin is seen as something that needs help and protection, then men can still find them attractive. But women are looking for a guy who is perfectly healthy and dominant.
So there you have it. Girls see ginger blokes as pale, frail and vulnerable, but dark-haired blokes as strong and sexy. Great! Thanks for that, Glenn. My fate as a ginger was sealed when brown-haired Rick married brunette Sandra in 1978. A life of prawn cocktails in suburban Essex lay ahead of them. Romance blossomed. 4 years later, Sandra was pregnant for the second time. It was a chance in a million, but the melanocortin 1 receptor gene mutated with unforeseen consequences. 9 months later, and Sandra, after 6 hours in labour, was told to push just one more time.
So, Mum, just tell us a bit about that day you gave birth to me.
Well, your birth was 6 hours. It was not a bad birth, really. I gave birth to you, and the midwife said, oh, like they do, oh, you have a son, Mrs. Wright, and he's ginger. And so she looked at me and she said, because I was dark then, and she said, is your husband ginger? And I said, no. But I didn't think anything more of it. I mean,
well, I did suggest about an identity parade and having the butcher and the milkman and the postman there and the neighbours either side, just to see if there was a likeness.
Right, so where does the gene come from then? It's got to come from somewhere, hasn't it?
I'm sure it comes from Dad's side. There's never been a ginger person in my side of the family, because somebody would have known, because you know what they're like. And
well, your dad was blonde.
no, he wasn't. He was white.
It's the same thing. Same thing, isn't it?
So do you think growing up, because I was ginger, made me different?
Didn't think of it.
Didn't think of it.
Just
It's
didn't
like,
register.
You know.
I was more worried about. I never thought about you being bullied for that at all. It never even crossed my mind. I was more concerned about you were very thin as a young boy. You couldn't go out in the sun, could you, on holiday?
Well, we sort of,
well,
you know, had him fully clothed, didn't we? And sun.
Which looked a bit odd sometimes.
Do you think?
He was all right.
Yeah, if you're in the Yorker and you're fully clothed around the pool.
We had swimming shorts and a t-shirt on,
and socks.
and
sometimes.
socks when your feet
Gloves.
were a bit red. Yeah.
But in Ibiza, I fainted, didn't I? And that was because I couldn't handle the heat.
No, that was an ear infection.
So do you think it affected me at school being ginger?
You were always in sort of amateur dramatics, and I think your hair and you being you were just somehow complete, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it that it was an asset.
Yeah.
That it was a good thing because you stood out.
I think that was the case at the Amateur Musical Society, but I don't think it was at secondary school. I think that's why I did the amateur musical side, really. I don't think they ever thought me being ginger would ever be a problem. I don't think they ever thought it would attract bullies or anything like that. If anything, I think they thought that me being really skinny could do that. But I don't think they were aware of the stick you can get being ginger.
My mum and dad didn't have a clue where my ginger hair came from, and the fact that my brothers were both dark-haired didn't help. I obviously had a ginger gene, but why was I the only ginger in my family? My search for an answer took me to a lab in Oxford. Sir Walter Bodmer is one of the country's leading scientists who study the genetics of ginger hair.
Well, I suppose what I want to know is, because I've got ginger hair and my parents both have brown hair, how did that happen exactly?
Well, it's all in the genes.
Right, okay.
And you get some genes from the same number of genes from your mother as you do from your father. Right?
Right, okay.
So they all come in pairs. And so your mum and dad will have had two versions of the gene that's involved in determining ginger hair, one that doesn't and one that contributes to it. And your mum and dad will both have had that. So they'll both have had a mixture of those two sorts of genes. Now there's a chance of a half that they'll pass on to you, either that one or that one, and that's your mum, and a half that either your dad will pass on either that one or that one. So if you got that one from your mum and that one from your dad, you've got two versions of that gene, and that's what makes you really ginger. Right?
That is a definite ginger.
Yeah, that's a definite ginger.
Right.
Now, I don't know whether you've got brothers and sisters, but some of them might have two versions of that gene that's got nothing to do with their hair. And then about half of them would have, just like their mum and dad, have one of the red versions and one of the other ones.
So what happens to them?
Well, they may or may not have ginger hair.
If you have one of each, is it more likely that it would be brown?
More likely that it would be brown,
right.
Yeah.
So if my dad has a recessive ginger gene and my mum has a recessive ginger gene, I've got a 1 in 4 chance of being ginger.
Absolutely, you've got it right in one.
I've got
I wish all my students were that good.
Right, okay. Now, tell us a little bit about the project you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, it's the people of the British Isles, and our idea is to sample throughout the country, and when I mean sample, we take some blood so we can get the DNA. And even with very preliminary studies, we can begin to see what we believe are the major influences in the British population, the Celtic fringe, so-called, the sort of people who are closer to the two ancient Britons, and they're the ones who have a higher frequency of this particular type of gene that you've got two versions of that gives you ginger hair.
Is there any actual advantage to being ginger?
Oh yes, the reason that those genes that give you ginger hair exist in a higher frequency is because they were selected for. They were an advantage to the people, the modern humans that came north to conditions of lower sunlight, where if you have a dark skin you don't make enough vitamin D. So that's a clear advantage.
But if everything was based on vitamin D and who absorbs it better, gingers would be top of the tree.
They'd be doing pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, and for that urban myth, which is the ginger gene is dying out, that's not true?
I don't think there's any...
Just want to clarify that, we're not dying.
You're looking very much alive.
Right, okay.
So Walter was a nice guy. He told me that ginger people are better at absorbing vitamin D. But, you know, that doesn't really help me. It's not going to help me in a nightclub if I go up to a girl and say, vitamin D? That's me.
I went to Brighton, not to top up my tan, but to meet a couple whose unborn baby's hair colour will not be a total surprise. Ruth Hill reckons her baby might be ginger, but she's more worried about deep breathing her way through labour. After the class, I found out that her ginger husband Dave, however, was another story.
So when you two started dating, did you ever think that there was a possibility about having a ginger child? Did it ever come into your head at all?
Dave's mum has a mild obsession about it.
Right.
And, she started out, when are you going to have a baby, when are you going to have a baby? And then as soon as I became pregnant, it moved over to, what if it's a ginger baby? I think she's trying to get a reaction out of me more than anything. She wants me to go, oh no, heaven forbid, a ginger baby.
When I was born, the midwife turned to my mum and said, oh my God, he's ginger. Are you going to be checking the colour of the hair just as it happens?
It's breech, isn't it, at the moment? So
baby's coming bottom first.
Head last.
Right.
So we'll have to wait till the very last moment to find out what hair colour there is.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing about being that keen on having a ginger baby is because people are sort of against sort of gingers and sort of, it is seen as slightly sort of less pretty.
Do you think that a ginger boy or a ginger girl would get more stick than perhaps a blonde or a brunette?
So, I mean, if I had the choice anyway, I'd rather have a blonde baby. I hope our child never watches this if it's ginger and be doomed. But, yeah, the blonde kid would have a much easier time at school.
Right.
Oh, I've got visions of this beautiful auburn-haired little girl with kind of long curly locks and bright blue eyes. Oh, I think it would be lovely.
I think a lot of ginger people, including myself, try and steer clear of other ginger people because we worry what other people might say. And have you ever had any ginger girlfriends, or have you tried to steer clear of that?
No, that'd be wrong, wouldn't it? I mean, especially with my ginger mum. That would be sort of the wrongest thing in the world ever. When it's like sort of like someone might see you kissing your sister or something like that, it doesn't look right at all.
But do you not think that you could help your child out, perhaps where the mickey was taken out of you or where you stuck out, you could perhaps help?
Or like sort of like helpful anecdotes and things like that. No, not really, no. We're going to buy some hats.
Do you not think you're letting the team down? I mean, you're a fellow ginger. I feel like we should be sticking up for ginger people. We should be wanting ginger people.
I don't know. I mean, I've never really got on with ginger people. Yeah, no, actually, I haven't got any ginger friends.
Really?
Yeah, I watch people. I mean, like, you know, Chris Evans on telly. You just want to smack him one, don't you?
Yeah, but you don't know him.
Buff. Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I suppose they are.
It was weird how it was Dave with his huge ginger tash who didn't want a ginger baby. It's almost like he wanted to distance himself from anything to do with being ginger. I suppose I do get it. Growing up as a ginger kid is tough, and I should know. And before you all write in, I did pick up the cup.
Well, this is my old primary school and where I first started getting called names. There was Copper Knob, Rusty, Ginger Balls,
Duracell, Carrot Top, Ginger Minger, and so it went on. Fearless, aggressive and strong, Harry Fisher isn't your stereotypical ginger teenage boy. Now I prefer football, but I watched the game with his mum until I had a chance to speak to Harry at half-time.
There's only 4 people with ginger hair in my whole year, and there's 160 of us.
Yeah.
And it just tends to be singled out. So like, if you're walking along the corridor, oi, ginger, that kind of thing to get your attention, to talk to you.
Okay, so tell us about other things that have happened to you.
I've been dragged off a chair by a hammer before.
Really?
Yeah, and some kid got a hammer and decided to drag me off my stool using it around my neck, which was quite scary.
How old were you when that happened?
Last year.
Right.
I had somebody got the whole bus chanting, "If you hate Harry, clap your hands."
Really?
And that went on for about 5 minutes, and then I just got off the bus. I'd had enough.
Did you ever shy away from it? Because when I was at school, I used to just walk away because I just didn't have the courage to really stand up for myself.
And well, a lot of the time now, if people do stuff to me, I'll just like ignore it and walk away.
Yeah.
Like, oi, ginger, yeah, so what? I'm ginger.
Yeah.
Who cares?
My parents aren't ginger, but your mum is ginger.
Yeah.
So has that helped, the fact that she can understand what you're going through?
Yeah, a lot, I think, because when I've ever told her something, she's got onto the school straight away to try and get it sorted, because I don't think she wants for me to happen what happened to her.
Yeah. So how have things improved now then?
Well, one thing was I went to assertiveness classes
right.
with Kidscape, and that helped a lot because it taught me lots of different ways to deal with things, and definitely to go and talk to somebody. And it was knowing that there was other people with the problem as well, the same problem that I do.
Did you feel it helped you game because you were more confident?
Yeah. The way my confidence had gone up, I was more confident on the pitch, and I thought I could do more stuff.
It was great to see how Harry had sorted his problems out. But for me, it also brought back memories of how vulnerable you can be as a ginger teenager. Especially when your body is changing in all sorts of unexpected ways, and your hormones start rushing around like crazy. One by one, my pubes sprouted out. At first, they were soft and brown, but then it happened. Thick, orange, Fanta pubes.
Well, this is my old secondary school, and I've got to say, I hated it. It was really, really bad. I would make people laugh sometimes, but then just as soon as the joke was over, just cast aside. And I genuinely think the reason for that was because I was ginger. It was almost as if I was some sort of performing ginger monkey. try and get in this club, right? But because I had this ginger hair and, well, ridiculous pale face, I looked about 5 and so really had no chance. But the thing is, eventually I did turn 18, so they couldn't stop me, I was in there. And I remember one night I was chatting up this barmaid, and I said to her, do you fancy going for a drink? And she looked at me direct in the eyes and said, my answer is the same as last week, no, ginger. And I thought, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? So I didn't ask her again.
It's been a week since my ads went in the paper, and not one response yet. Not one. I wanted to be cool about it, but in the back of my mind, all I could think was no half-decent girl really wants to go out with a ginger bloke. Charlie Clements plays Bradley from EastEnders, another ginger who's not exactly a stud on the square.
Should I look all right?
Yeah, you look lovely. And I'll have your cocoa ready for you, waiting when you get back.
Mine with soy milk, please, Mrs. Brennan.
Oh, dear old God.
What EastEnders tend to do is run a workshop rather than the bog standard audition. And one of the questions was, why do you want to be in EastEnders? And the first thing I could think of was, there's not enough ginger people on TV.
Did you say that?
I did say that, yeah. Yeah.
So, your first day on the square, just tell us what happened to Bradley as he came in.
He's turned up in these really sort of old-fashioned clothes. You know, he's got the brown brogues, these like sort of chino-type trousers and check shirts.
Quality.
Yeah, he's got a really sort of old, tatty suitcase and his golf clubs.
Bradley?
Hello, Grandad.
Oh, got the kitchen sink and all, have you?
Can you just tell us a little bit about the relationship that Bradley and Stacey have and how it's related to Bradley's hair colour?
You know, when they first met, she just saw this ginger guy who was a bit geeky, a bit nerdy. Which is obviously the complete opposite to Stacey Slater. You know, you wouldn't associate the two of them together.
But he's such a wuss. Visitor for you.
Oh, yeah? I better be off. I'll see you later, Bradley.
So what did you want?
What do you mean?
Well, I don't want to go out with you, Bradley.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
No need. Am I downhearted?
Well, I think you should be.
Stereotypically, I think girls like Stacey, like they're tall, dark, handsome type of guy, didn't they? And they'd sooner be walking down the street with, you know, a Brad Pitt or a George Clooney type than Bradley.
So because you're playing quite an oddball character, do you worry that when you leave EastEnders, that there'll only be a certain amount of characters you can play because you're ginger?
Obviously, it's going to be a contributing factor to certain parts, and there's obviously certain parts I just won't be able to go for. Bond. You've gone blonde, why not have a ginger one? Go a step further.
Charlie's right. Bradley's experiences on the square mirror exactly how gingers are treated in life. But it hasn't always been that way. I remember Sir Walter telling me ginger Celts were the original Brits. And of course there was Henry VIII, the ginger shagmeister, and Galileo, who told us the world was round, ginger, and Columbus, who discovered America, ginger, and even our very own Winston Churchill. When he had hair, he was the original ginger ninja. But let's face it, none of them are famous for being lookers. I watched the show with Gareth Scourfield, fashion editor for Esquire magazine. One chiselled featured pretty boy after another stomped down the runway. If they're straight, these guys could probably shack any women they wanted. Thank God they don't hang out down my local. After the show, Gareth broke it down in fashion terms for me.
A good-looking man is always determined as a very tall, dark, handsome man. So generally that means dark hair, swarthy looks, a guy that's basically going to sell a very sexy image. Blonde guys also can kind of get away with it, whereas a redhead guy with his pale tone can only really work with certain colours that look good.
And what colours are they?
They tend to be the kind of tweedy browns.
Like this?
Yeah, exactly what you're wearing, which is very good. It just works tonally with the skin and the hair.
Right.
Or something very severe, like black or white. But when you start looking at reds and blues, yellows, pinks, you look at those colours and it can really drain the colour out of the skin. And that's not a very good look.
So do you think it's different for male models as opposed to female models?
The fashion out there is so much broader for women. You get the likes of Lily Cole and Karen Elson, who've got amazing flame red hair. And it goes back to the whole romantic pre-Raphaelite, very attractive women. With men, it's so different. You know, a redhead is a redhead is a redhead. You don't cover a man in makeup, and you can't, other than change the colour of his hair, you can't really, you are getting what you see.
So what would happen if a brand like Top Man started using ginger models? What would be the repercussions?
I think you'd question why they were using ginger models. It could be that they want to make a point of difference, make it slightly quirky. But you certainly wouldn't have them using solely ginger guys or one ginger model to front their whole campaign.
But if they used a number of ginger models, would it affect the sales?
Yeah.
It really would?
Sales would plummet because guys need to relate to guys in ad campaigns. Dark haired guy, looking good, looking healthy. And a white, pasty, ginger-haired guy just doesn't have that appeal.
So do you think that fashion just reflects what people think, the stereotypes that we have in our heads then?
I think what we do and what we put into the magazine is a reflection of society generally.
Yeah.
So you walk along any high street and you see the billboards or open any magazine, the likelihood is you're going to see blonde and dark-haired guys advertising, you know, fashion and fragrances because it's what society demands or what they expect. So it is kind of towing the line in that respect.
It just seems ridiculous to me in an industry which is so daring and out there and inspiring that the only risk they won't take is having someone with ginger hair.
I think ginger hair is the bottom line.
Thanks. You've told me what I didn't want to hear, but thanks anyway.
It's quite all right.
Cheers.
Thank you.
The people I've met from TV soaps and the fashion world tell me that they only reflect the world as it is. The folks at Saatchi Ad Agency, however, make a living out of changing the way people think. Their creative team agreed to see if they could help.
Trying to get everyone to change the way they view ginger people is going to be really, really hard. And I don't think one campaign can do that.
No, right.
And I don't think us as Saatchi can do that. But we can definitely do something to get people to think.
I just want it to be, well, ginger hair is different, but, you know, it could be cool.
Yeah.
It could be a cool thing, you know? I mean, do you think that's pushing it, or could you do that?
I think that could be
No,
nice,
I think if it's done with the right level of humour and kind of, you know, with a bit of tongue in cheek.
Do you feel special being ginger? Because something like 3% of the population are actually ginger.
I don't feel special, but when I was at school, I got quite a bit of stick, and so I thought, well, I'll show you, you know. And even now, I think I don't want people to see me as just ginger. At least they'll see me as funny and ginger.
Because you stand for being funny, you use that as your cover. So basically, if somebody met you, they'd remember you for your humour rather than your hair, maybe.
Does your wife or your girlfriend?
This is just it. I can't get a girlfriend at the minute. I don't know whether that is connected to having ginger hair, but when I was at that nightclub, those girls clearly saw it as a turn-off.
Do you think it would have helped if there were positive role models when you were a kid?
Yeah, totally. I think if there was some sort of character in a sitcom who was ginger and cool and funny.
I mean, I was going to ask, actually, have you seen, or do you notice more redhead people in movies or in other comedy series or anything like that?
The only sort of people who have really come out of it positively, I think people like Chris Evans have, but they're still seen as geeks.
Yeah.
And I genuinely feel, I might be wrong, that he kind of played on that with the glasses and what have you.
And the name of his company and everything, wasn't it? Kind of
I can't think of anyone who's ginger and masculine.
Got Damian Lewis, he's...
Yeah, suppose with Damien Lewis, he's now on the scene, but when I was growing up, there was no one. I was called Chris Evans because I had ginger hair. I mean, that makes as much sense as calling someone who's black Linford Christie, just because they're black, you know?
You know, I think there's more than one way of going about this campaign.
It's not as simple as what's the message. That's pretty difficult. And then another part of it is how do we talk to people? Where do we talk to people about it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Thank you.
And I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Okay, see you then.
All right.
So you take away racism, you take away homophobia, what is the one group left that we can all have a piss take at? White people. Ginger hairs!
The ad guys got me thinking whether I'd hidden behind comedy without ever realising. Or were you picking up on this? Was I sending out a vibe, have a laugh with me, but just don't get too close?
When you met me and you realised that I was ginger, did anything go through your mind as to what I might be like?
Yeah, in all honesty, Dan, you looked a bit geeky when I first met you.
Yeah.
So I suppose if I had a misconception, it would be that I thought you were a bit geeky, yeah.
Do you think I played up to it?
Well, I think you did at the time,
Yeah, I think I did as well.
At university, yeah.
Yeah. A couple of times I made a couple of ginger references, but the audience really ran with it. Why do you think that was?
If you say in any of your gags, I'm ginger, whatever, you're kind of giving them permission to say, you know, whatever they like to shout out, ginger or ginger bollocks or whatever they might shout out.
I think some guy about just went, ginger. No freestyling, dickheads, keep to the script, okay?
Why do you think there are so many comedians that take the mickey out of themselves?
A lot of comedians say that comedy's like therapy for them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's almost a way of them getting this stuff out there to a captive audience. And if they can make it funny and make a living out of it, then fair dues. But it helps them out, you know, in their own head, I think, a lot of the time.
I tongued it, spun it around and then strummed it. Put it on its side, her fanning I spied, asked if she'd mind if I could delve inside. She said, well, of course, now here's my rat, but before you get started, can I have a tug on that? Don't worry, Dan, you'll get a bird someday. But there was hair on her chin, and he couldn't get it in. Oh my God, it was a man again!
But do you not think, though, once the gag's over and they come back off stage, there are some comedians who then feel a bit down because reality sets in, and those insecurities that they had are still there?
Well, I think essentially they are going to be there regardless. I wouldn't say to anybody, you know, stand-up comedy is a form of therapy, and that's if you do stand-up comedy, all your problems are solved.
Yeah.
Steve was right. Comedy is a brilliant way, but it's no way to deal with your problems. A few days later, and there were still no responses to my personal ads. Panic had started to set in. In a world where having ginger hair for a bloke is frankly just wrong, I needed to explore my options. Ginger option 1. If you can't beat them, join them. A trip to the hairdressers, and a few hours later, your ginger hair could be just your little secret. Richard Allen has never looked back since going from ginger to blonde.
Yeah, I felt it suited me, and it definitely improved my social life. I was just a lot happier in myself. I don't think I had a proper girlfriend until I was 21. Even if a girl liked me at school, she probably wouldn't dare because I had red hair.
I know what you mean. I found I didn't get with any women at school because just ginger hair was a no-no for girls.
There's such a stigma to going out with a guy with ginger hair.
Yeah.
It's like you're not supposed to do it. I'm proof in the pudding the fact that I've had a lot of, not a lot, but I've had a lot more girlfriends than I had before I was 21 when I started dyeing my hair. Things improved dramatically, in my opinion.
How do you feel when people say you should stick to being ginger? You're not being true to yourself.
I'd say why should I stick to it?
Yeah.
I'd say it's my preference. People have nose jobs, people dye their hair because they want to make themselves look better. And even though I wouldn't do it just because of how people react to me, I do it for myself. It just makes things easier. It makes my life better.
Rich, I've got to ask this question. Have you ever dyed your pubic hair?
Is this going out on camera?
I'm afraid so, yeah.
Can we renegotiate my wage? No, I've never.
You've never?
Never.
So whenever you go out with girls now and they think that you're blonde, there must be that moment when they find out that you are actually ginger.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it crops up in conversation usually before or get intimate.
Yeah.
But there's always that light switch, you know.
I feel like from talking to Richard that he's given in, that he's thought, well, if you can't beat them, join them. And I think it's made me realise that I would never want to dye my hair blonde, because that would be such a defeatist thing to do.
Ginger option 2, leave the country. Roland Humes had enough of being called ginger bollocks and has come up with a pretty drastic solution.
Did you find it was different for you when you went abroad?
Absolutely. I mean, what happened is in the year 2000, I moved to France for a few years, and then I moved to New York. And the thing I've realised in both France and New York is the discomfort with ginger people that you have just does not exist. In France, ginger hair is the bomb.
Did you find your experiences as a guy with ginger hair different in America?
Absolutely. I mean, it was a completely different world. I found I did very well with the ladies in America, and it was great. And one of them said, "Oh, red hair really works for you," and stuff like this. And I was seen as an attractive person, which had never happened in England. In England, I was the ginger-minger who girls wouldn't fancy. I mean, to be honest, I had like 3 or 4 girlfriends back in England, and that was it, which was quite shameful for a guy my age.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I've had less. You're okay. So you've had all these bad experiences in England, and then it seems like you've had quite a lot of positive ones in America. I mean, have you ever thought about doing something about that?
Well, I'm actually married to an American, and she just treated me as an individual rather than someone with ginger hair.
So would you ever live there?
I'd love to go to America with my wife and live there for the rest of our lives, because it's an environment I feel so much more comfortable in, especially when we have kids, because my wife is very dark. She's got very dark hair, so I don't think it's a likelihood.
Could happen.
She's half Italian, she's half Jewish, so it could happen. I think there is other genetics in there. And if you had ginger kids, I would hate to inflict 12 years of education in England upon them, because they'd go to school, they'd be picked on, they'd come out miserable and bitter like me.
Some people listening to that might think that's quite defeatist, that you're running away. How would you see that?
I think that is actually, to be honest, a fair comment. But I don't know, I mean, I'm not exactly going to be, I don't know, the Malcolm X of ginger people and go out and stand up for ginger solidarity and try and change the country, because I don't think that's going to work. I think it's going to take decades, if at all, if England changes its perspective on that. So all I want is a nice, happy life.
Ginger option 3, have a sex change. Jenny McAlpine plays Fizz on Coronation Street, the only young ginger woman in a British soap.
He took my designs and he sold them, and now he's just trying to fob me off with just a fraction of what he's getting. Yeah, he ripped me off.
I did not.
Oh, I want my job back.
You're wasting your time and ruining our hearing.
Do you know, he's giving me 500 measly quid and he's going to make thousands.
That's business.
You exploited me.
Could you just describe Fizz for me?
Well, she's quite bolshy, isn't she? She's quite fiery, quite feisty. Yeah, she's like, you know, she's tough.
Yeah.
She's quite good at confrontation. She doesn't mind telling people what's what.
Right, you have asked for this.
Fizz, don't you dare!
She's doing it now.
So in the real world, what has it been like being ginger?
Do you know what? I was all right. I never experienced any kind of any bullying like that.
I mean, were you called any names because of it?
I don't think I was, and maybe I just wasn't in tune to it.
Yeah.
But I think it's because it's different. But there were boys, and there were boys that I can think of at my school who probably had a really rough time because of it.
So do you think it's different for guys rather than girls?
Well, I think it is. I mean,
yeah, I do totally. Yeah, especially at school, I think guys are seen as quite geeky. Do you think that as well?
Well, they were at my school. There's a couple of ginger-haired boys in my school. Hello, if you're watching. And I hope they've done very well, because they deserve to. They probably are in Gingers Anonymous, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's clear there's a difference between the way ginger guys get treated to ginger girls, but do you think that shows up in Coronation Street at all?
Well, I suppose it does with Fizz and Chesney.
Yeah.
But we've had some nice scenes where Chesney's come home from school and said that he's being bullied.
You know what it's like to be ginger and funny looking in a kid's home.
Hey, striking, Ches. We're striking.
We're freaks. That's what they call me at Chancery Terrace. Kept putting my head down, bog trying to wash red out my hair. There's always some bully.
Laura Proctor.
Who?
No one. Let's just say that I've been there. That was quite hard for me to do, actually, because I haven't ever been bullied at school. But I kind of just... I was trying to pretend that Fizz had been.
Yeah.
So I was saying... But it was quite hard, actually. It was quite... I don't want to ever do that again, you know.
Do you think that goes past school as well? Like, even now, I think there are a lot of girls who wouldn't date ginger people for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't think it's school. I think, like, there's adults today who'll be watching this thinking, oh, yeah, I won't go out with a ginger bloke.
Do you like guys with ginger hair?
Well, I don't... Are you asking me out, Dan?
Yeah, I prefer if the cameras weren't here, but it's come up.
We only had one brew together, Dan. Blooming hell.
Well, there you go. It would appear that if you're a ginger girl, you're going to have it easy. If you're a ginger guy, you're not, you know. So what can I do? I suppose all I can do is have a sex change. Don't worry, I'm not going to have a sex change. Well, I might.
It had been 2 weeks since my ads were placed, and it was time to check in on my messages.
These are the replies, if I get any, for the advert not stipulating that I had ginger hair. So I hope to get a few. If I get none, that's really bad.
Hello, I'm an ex-ballerina working in London. I'm not ambitious. I'm just...
She's not ambitious, which is good. She sounds like some sort of Russian prostitute trying to get a visa.
Message kept. The following reply was left on
I've got another one.
February 10th, 1709.
This has got to be better.
Hi, Dan. You really do want to know about the person who you want to talk to, though, don't you? Because you did ask quite a few questions about descriptions, etc.
Yes.
On the face of it, sometimes I'm reluctant to say what I do because, well, it sounds very boring.
I'm sorry, but that was an press 1 to repeat.
She did ramble a bit, but it's difficult to know, really.
Message kept.
I don't know how successful these things are. Maybe people only get about 2 responses, but you know, it's a national newspaper, and I would have thought that maybe I would have got 4 or 5. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to check my messages with the advert that I stipulated I was ginger. If I've got nothing there, and I've got a bad feeling about it now, if I only got 2 with a non-ginger one, I mean, this looks bad.
Your replies will now be played back to you.
Come on.
Please bear in mind that any saved
Be
replies
normal.
will be played back
Be
first.
normal.
Okay, I've never replied to anything like this before, so I'm not even sure what I'm doing. But I thought your ad was very funny, and having listened to what you just said, I did giggle a lot, and I thought it was great. I have done a bungee jump, I love salsa, I'm up for a laugh, I love listening to live music, or watching a football game. Now that's actually one of my New Year's resolutions, because I've never been to a proper game, and I've always wanted to. Get in touch if you're up for doing something, that would be fantastic. And hopefully I'll hear from you soon, Dan Wright.
She sounded all right. But then I started to think the worst.
I'll be honest, I hope she doesn't have ginger hair, because I just worry what people think. Everyone worries what people think of them. I still think that if a ginger-haired guy goes out with a ginger-haired girl, a lot of people think that's weird. And I know that I should probably get over.
I wasn't sure about going on a date with a girl who could be ginger. A few days later, Ruth and Dave sent me a home video announcing the birth of their gorgeous baby girl.
This is our baby. This is Emily Violet Hilt. She's born 6 pounds. And by the look of things, she's not ginger. Hooray!
Hey.
Don't hold your breath, mate. She looks ginger to me. The deadline for Saatchi's ginger campaign was up. It was showtime.
Right, let's see what you've got then.
Right, the idea is really simple. This is a poster campaign. 3 executions. First one is of, we see a picture here of Boris Becker and an old Timbo there.
Yeah.
And underneath we say, 6 Grand Slams, and underneath Tim, no Grand Slams.
You can't beat a ginger.
You can't beat a ginger.
I like that tagline, you can't beat a ginger.
You can't beat a ginger. I mean, we played around with, you know, come on you Reds and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think just call ginger ginger. Let's be proud of it.
I agree, yeah, because so many people refer to ginger hair as red.
Red, it's almost like a polite way of referring to it.
Yeah, but a lot of ginger people refer to it as red, and it's not red, it's ginger.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you kept with that word.
Yeah, yeah, good. Carrying on the theme of ginger winners and non-ginger losers, a female kind of approach. So we've got Nicole Kidman here. She's won 1 Oscar, a BAFTA, 3 Golden Globes, and obviously Cameron's won nothing.
Well, no Oscars, BAFTAs or Golden Globes anyway.
Yeah, good. And then my personal favourite, we've got Sir Winston there, won World War,
that's good, yeah.
and Hitler, no World Wars.
I mean, that's great. That's really, really good.
I mean, I have to say, Sir Winston Churchill has to be the ultimate ginger hero. What would you feel about seeing this on a big 48 Street billboard? Do you think it gets across the right kind of message?
Yeah, I'd feel great. I think if I was walking down the street and I saw that, I think, you know, I'd feel, yeah, I'm proud to be ginger, really.
And in time-honoured TV tradition, here's one we made earlier.
So here we have the poster, Dan, nice and big now.
I think it's great. I really do think it's great. I think we definitely went the right way. I mean, it's funny.
Yeah.
We're not moaning. We're just light-heartedly saying that ginger people are out there. They can be heroes. You know, that sort of thing. You know.
Yeah. And works as part of the campaign we have. You know, you can say this was this kind of the sports execution. Then you've got the showbiz one with Nicole Kidman.
And you've got the politicians.
Politics,
as well,
yeah.
I mean, you could go any way with it, couldn't you? And it's going to have the same message every time.
It very simply leaves a little simple positive thing in your brain, and as the campaign wears on, I'll end up with 6 or 7 little positive things in my brain. And,
yeah.
Hopefully that just changes my perception of ginger people just a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. It's just saying, don't forget us. We're special as well.
Absolutely.
Not in a bad way.
I think you're special.
So it's a really nice ad, but at the end of the day, it was done for TV. I can't imagine anyone spending millions of pounds on a genuine campaign.
The lowdown on this ginger Casanova.
So Phil, how did you go from seeing your hair as a negative and being bullied for it to a positive and you being fine with it and quite confident?
I guess a turning point came when I sort of got my first girlfriend. She was quite a cool kid in school, and I was sort of on the fringes, and everyone was taking sweepstakes about how long we'd be together and stuff, because she was pretty much out of my league. She was a beautiful girl, and I realised then if I can, you know, pull a Sarah Evans, then there's no problem with me, and my attitude generally started changing then, and I realised that, you know, it's going to be okay. It's just a hair colour. It's nothing any deeper than that, you know.
Yeah, the lovely Sarah Evans. So how do you deal with women now?
I do okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other women out there that obviously hate ginger hair and will never be seen with a ginger,
Yes.
but there's a certain subsect, there's a niche market out there, women that go wild for it.
Have you ever been with a woman who said, I really like your ginger pubic hair? They see it as a bit of a turn on.
Women like redhead men all over. I can't believe you don't...
Well, I've just never met anyone who's thought that ginger hair is really attractive.
I've definitely met women since living in London that really liked it.
I need to go out of you to a few bars.
Yeah.
I think what I've learnt most about doing this film is
If people have got a problem with ginger hair, then that's their problem. It's not mine. I can't do anything about the way they feel, right? But, I mean, I've gone on stage and I've made a joke of it. There are those that can dye their hair, some go away abroad because they can't handle it over here. You know, you can even make a funky ad. But I think the best way of dealing with it is just to be confident. If you're confident in your own skin and your own hair, then that doesn't matter, does it? Nothing else matters.
I did call the girl from the ginger ad, and she sounds really nice. And she's got red hair, and I don't give a shit. It's a first for me, and if we click, who knows? Ginger kids, bring them on. Now fuck off, I'm on a date.
Well, listen up, stud, your life's been wasted till you got down on your knees and tasted a redhead.